Welcome to New York City Visions. I'm your host and fellow New Yorker, Herb Malsman. We are at 165. Can I give the address? I guess I can. 165 Cadman Plaza. We're in the building, the offices of the Office of Emergency Management for New York City. And we're right in the nerve center, in the center of the, what is it called? The operation? Is it the nerve center or the?
This is the Emergency Operations Center here, or the EOC as we call it. This room houses everybody from local, state, federal, private, banking, and even universities. We had a full activation of this room back in during Hurricane Irene. The entire room was activated. We had everybody from the police department to the fire department, EMS, MTA, Con Edison, National Grid, Department of Buildings, Department of Sanitation. We had virtually every single city agency in this building. The Nerve Center, what I like to call, is our watch command, which is our 24/7, 365 operation. And they're monitoring everything from police, fire, weather, aviation. As you can see, as you mentioned before, the different news stations that we're monitoring. We have representatives from the buildings department that sits in here because of a lot of the emergencies that we respond to. It is Department of Buildings specific. We need building schematics, so we have an individual who can pull it up right here. We're plugged right into Con Edison's their board and National Grid's board as well too. So this is the nerve center of the city. We have our finger on the pulse of the city with everything that's going on here.
Right. And let's introduce you first. Seth Andrews.
Sure.
And you're the Deputy Press Secretary?
For the Office of Emergency Management.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Did I create an emergency when I started calling you? I mean, I drove you guys nuts.
Not at all.
There was no emergency? You didn't say, watch the sky?
No. We get hundreds of requests every month for people to want to come here and do something, with us and learn more about the agency. We have other cities that come here and want to duplicate what it is that we've done here in our Emergency Operations Center and in our watch commands.
I'm looking at International Times, New York 1408, right now 208, Tokyo 308. I'm assuming that's beyond us, 308,
yes,
beyond
correct.
us. Okay, so here's where it happens, and an emergency happens. Irene happens, the earthquake happened, but the earthquake kind of came up suddenly. I mean, there's no way to plan for that. Did this room become operational at this point, or what happened on that?
Sure.
And what was the date on that?
I wasn't here. I had taken a few days off, but with technology these days, I was kept in the loop via my BlackBerry as to what was happening. But just behind the Emergency Operations Center here is our Situation Room. That was activated, where we had representatives from OEM that were here. Everybody in the agency sits on a different team, red, white, and blue. And at the time, I believe it was the red team that was up. So you may have somebody during the day who is a agency attorney, 9 to 5 during the day. But when we're activated, their role may be transportation and infrastructure. So what we did was we had our Situation Room activated. That way, we were getting first-hand information from Watch Command, getting plugged right into our Situation Room. And if anything came up where we needed to have eyes on it, we'd send out one of our citywide interagency coordinators, or CICs. They are our responders. They are our eyes and ears on the ground that are there at the emergency, relating back here to Watch Command as to what's going on. So again, it was our Situation Room that was activated, but we played primarily a support role for the fire department and for the police department.
Okay, Hurricane Irene came along. I see Hotel Association of New York City. Briefly, what, unless you already mentioned it, it's private sector. What would the Hotel Association of New York City be doing at this spot right here during an emergency? What
they may be doing is they may be working with our public-private representative. If there were people that were evacuated and they needed, if their home was flooded and they needed to be somewhere and a shelter wasn't conducive, they may be working with the American Red Cross, working with our private sector people to find places for them to stay.
So that's what's happening over here. Okay, now Hurricane Irene, Was everybody here for the hurricane? Because I know the MTA, there was a shutdown of the MTA, so things had to be coordinated there. How did you plug into that at all during that shutdown?
We have
People.
We have representatives from the MTA that are here, so that way, if we need first-hand information from them, instead of having to pick up the phone and call somebody over at the MTA, we have a representative that's here. And we have pre-designated liaisons. They're not just going to send over somebody from the MTA, just like the fire department isn't going to send somebody over blindly. These are pre-identified liaisons, people that are decision makers. Because when this room is activated and things need to get done, we need somebody here that is a decision maker, not somebody that's going to come over here and be a body we're going to request something from them, and then they're going to have to pick up the phone and call somebody, and then that person's going to call somebody. We want somebody here that's going to be a key decision maker for their city agency.
Okay, so 9/11, the 10th anniversary just passed, and then I know that must have been a heightened sense of readiness at that point, because there were some threats being made, idle threats being made. As it turned out, idle threats. What was happening in this room that leading up to the 10th anniversary, and then during that day?
Well, we are not a law enforcement agency. We are a coordinating agency. So what our responsibility is for something like that is to help provide assistance if assistance is needed. We did staff our situation room with, I believe, 3 or 4 reps from OEM, but we didn't have an actual active role leading up to September 11th. The police department, they are the ones that are in charge of law enforcement, and we're monitoring, any sort of threats that were posed towards New York City.
And what would have been your position at that point, because it is emergency management? What would have been your input? What were you ready for? I mean, as far as emergencies, was there any sort of...
Again, it's, you can't sit here right now and try and identify what it is that we would be doing. We're a coordinating agency, so we're not, putting out the fire or saving lives. We're out at the fire when one happens. After the smoke clears and people are displaced from their homes, where are they going to go? And that's where we step in. If it's during the middle of the winter, we may request to have 2 or 3 MTA buses come up to the scene to be able to provide temporary shelter for people until the American Red Cross gets on scene, and we can coordinate where these people are going to go. So we're not in the business of saving lives or protecting property. We're a coordinating agency. That's one of our core competencies as far as for New York City Office of Emergency Management. Our other is educating the public on how to be prepared for an emergency. A lot of people don't believe or don't think an emergency is going to happen to them. So that's sort of twofold of what we're in the business of doing, is preparing people.
Right. You have formed you established in 1996, and then I think I mentioned something about continuity of preparedness
of operations.
Talk about prior to 1996. Was it more a hit and miss kind of thing, or is it? It'd be hard for me to comment on that because that's before my time. But we have a whole department, as we refer to it as COOP, Continuity of Operations, and they have written detailed plans to be able to get specific city agencies back up and running after 12 hours if there was some sort of emergency, if there was some sort of fire in a building. We work very closely with these other city agencies, our COOP department, to ensure that these agencies are back up and running within 12 hours. Right. Okay, Mayor Giuliani, on 9/11, the moment it happened, he was at an office, some sort of an emergency office, I thought. Would that have been here? What office was he? What office was his headquarters during that day?
Well, at the time, the Office of Emergency Management was located, I believe it was in the South Tower, and then after that, we relocated to Water Street, and then we purchased this building back in, I believe it was 1995. It was the former Red Cross building, which we gutted, and as you can see, we've redone. And it's you can run the entire city out of this building if you had to. Okay,
so Mayor Giuliani was in the South Tower that morning. Was he?
I don't know where Mayor Giuliani was.
But he did wind up in the emergency area someplace, helping coordinate. What would have been going on at that point? I mean, you weren't there, but what would have been happening at that point? Can you sort of paint the picture of what was happening in that office at that
Again,
moment? I mean, it must have been pretty.
It was a very chaotic day from what I've heard from people, and it would be. Coordinating with getting additional resources in. We work closely with with people outside of the city, with the different counties. So it would be getting additional resources coming in from other counties. Again, Herb, it's hard to comment on 9/11 because I wasn't working for the city at the time.
Well, I'll tell you, in 1993, when the bomb was planted in the parking area of the North Tower, I think it was 93. Was that 93? That was the first attack on the World Trade Center. I know that ambulances from all over the tri-state area were coming in. Matter of fact, I was directing traffic at Murray and West Broadway that day when that occurred. Now, that was all organized through, I'm going to assume, emergency management. I mean, that was afterwards in the emergency, so all these ambulances came in. So you don't know if that was...
I don't. It's hard for me to comment on things when I wasn't working, for the city, specifically for, New York City OEM at the time. I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Okay, I'm just looking at now. What are we looking into? Again, we're looking into what's going on beyond the glass. Can we go in there? This is the watch command right here. Right. And the way that it's broken down is you have here in the top right-hand corner is where our watch command supervisor sits. That's him. Yep. Michael Ortiz. He's the watch command supervisor for the afternoon-evening tour. So all decision-making goes through Mike. And then to his left is the Notify NYC desk. That's where our notification specialist sits. Are you familiar with Notify NYC? No, I'm not. It's
a free service. People can sign up. You can. It's zip code specific, so you can put in the zip code of where you live, where your children go to school, where your grandchildren go to school, and you can receive information as to emergency special events that are happening either within your zip code, within your borough, or even citywide. Right. And we currently have right around 80,000 subscribers. And you can receive everything from a phone call with an automated message to a text message to an email. You can receive one or you can receive all three. It's a free service, and we encourage people to sign up. It's a great way to stay informed as to what's happening in your neighborhood.
Okay, I'm signed up to that too, but do you have a website and any other contact information?
Sure, you can. If you don't have a computer, you can call 311 and they will register for you, or you can go to www.nyc/notify-NYC. And it's a very, very easy way to be able to stay informed. If there's going to be some sort of, special event, a low-flying plane in Lower Manhattan, we will put it out to the entire city. If there's going to be, if there's some sort of fire in your neighborhood, we'll put it out specifically to that zip code that it's affecting.
All right. Okay, right now I'm looking in, and there's a multi-television screens. You've got
Sure.
CNN going. You've got, I don't know, I think it's mostly news. What's happening over on the right? It looks like, is that the desk area here? Is that
which one?
CCTV
Oh,
on the right?
Right. Well, the far right one, that's just a security camera that shows down in the main lobby, and then we have a series of security cameras that show around the building. And then in the top right, we're plugged into Con Edison, into National Grid's, to their feeder board, so we can see what's going on, with those two. With those two agencies. If there's an issue with Con Ed, we will know about it. If there's an issue with National Grid, we'll know about it. And as you indicated, we're monitoring news. We're monitoring local news. We're monitoring international news, and we're monitoring news throughout the United States.
I'm looking at the bottom screen. It's like four different cameras going, and one of them looks like the coming out of the parking area, coming through, and then perhaps the gate there.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, those are security cameras. We've got security cameras located around the entire property.
Well, they were watching me for about 5 minutes out there because I thought the back door was the front door, and then I saw a gentleman going through with his key card and saying, well, that must be the front entrance. Oh,
yeah, that's to get into our gated parking lot.
I hit that red button. I kept on hearing, hello. Yep. And now I guess they were watching this because it looks like that where the cars were coming out.
I don't know if it would be so much these individuals here watching. It would be our security staff downstairs that would be watching. That's probably who was speaking to you. But just outlining...
Nobody was speaking to me through the box, but an officer came up behind me.
Oh, okay.
So,
in universities, we had a full activation of this room back in during Hurricane Irene. The entire room was activated. We had everybody from the police department to the fire department, EMS, MTA, Con Edison, National Grid, Department of Buildings, Department of Sanitation. We had virtually every single city agency in this building. The Nerve Center, what I like to call, is our watch command, which is our 24/7, 365 operation, and they're monitoring everything from police, fire, weather, aviation. As you can see, as you mentioned before, the different
right in the nerve center, in the center of the, what is it called? The operation, is it the nerve center or the?
This is the Emergency Operations Center here, or the EOC as we call it. This room houses everybody from local, state, federal, private banking, and EV stations that we're monitoring. We have representatives from the buildings department that sits in here because of a lot of the emergencies that we respond to. It is Department of Building specific. We need building schematics, so we have an individual who can pull it up right here. We're plugged right into Con Edison's.
Welcome to New York City Visions. I'm your host and fellow New Yorker, Herb Malsman. We are at 165. Can I give the address? I guess I can. 165 Cadman Plaza. We're in the building, the offices of the Office of Emergency Management for New York City, and we're right in, I guess we're right